look at AI as a creative catalyst. So it's elevating just the types of work you do, the types of ideas that you have. So getting it out of your mindset that it is this replacement. And so I think if you can look at AI as this thing that expands how you think, what you can do, ideas, things that break from more traditional types of marketing, you'll start to see that when you can combine those AI brainstorming sessions combined with your human expertise, you're able to truly refine and elevate storytelling. I really look at AI as this partner that can, whether it's looking at data to figure out what's worked in the past and what is not, finding hidden patterns, suggesting novel ideas, being able to help you rapidly iterate on concepts or test unconventional ideas.
Mike's got the hat, the AI kind. Unlocking power in business you'll find. Cut through the hype, explore the tech. Every week, new ideas to check. All 10 leads us on a digital quest. AI secrets he'll always invest. Tune in tight, don't miss a beat. Knowledge groove, keep you on your feet. Listen up to the AI flow. Business growth, here we go. Cutting edge insights, that's the plan. With the AI hat, you'll understand.
Greetings, program. Welcome back to the AI Hat podcast, where I selfishly use this time to pick the brains of experts at keeping up with and integrating or layering artificial intelligence into social media, advertising, search, content, and other areas of business and marketing. Oh, and you get to learn too. Subscribe to be shown and prepare yourself and your brand for this AI revolution and come out ahead. Now, have you ever wondered why some marketing teams seem to effortlessly integrate AI into their strategies while others struggle to get started? The answer might not lie in the technology itself, but in the mindset of the team using it. Today, we're diving into the fascinating world of AI adoption and marketing and how a simple shift in thinking can lead to extraordinary results. Because in this fast paced realm of digital marketing, staying ahead of the curve is just about having the latest tools. It's about embracing a new way of thinking. Many marketers find themselves overwhelmed by the constant barrage of AI innovations, unsure how to harness this power effectively. And the problem isn't a lack of AI tools or capabilities, it's a gap in our approach to these technologies. But what if I told you that the key to unlocking AI's full potential in marketing isn't about mastering those complex algorithms or investing in expensive software? What if the real game changer is something much more
Yeah.
fundamental, a shift in mindset? And that's where our guest today comes in. I'm thrilled to introduce Natalie Lambert, a true pioneer in the world of AI powered marketing. Natalie isn't just talking about AI, she's living it. As the former global director of applied AI for marketing at Google, she's been at the forefront of integrating AI into marketing strategies for one of the world's most innovative companies. Now, as the founder of her own consulting firm, Natalie is on a mission to help marketing teams worldwide make the cognitive leap into the AI era. Hey, Natalie, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
So excited to have you. You are someone that I've been following and reading for quite a while now. You are a master at this. We're really lucky to have you, thankfully. You mentioned once somewhere that AI brings you joy in your work. Could you elaborate on how adopting an AI mindset has changed your approach to marketing challenges?
I can. AI, ever since I started working with AI, it has just been a joy to use and to do my day to day activities. So while many of us do sit on a team and we have colleagues, a lot of the work we do is still alone. It is still solo. And one of the things that has been a lot of fun when using these technologies is to truly have a creative collaborator sitting next to me across all of the things that I do. So I don't look at AI as a tool. I really look at it as this creative partner who is always there with me, helping me generate ideas or helping execute strategies. And for me, what I think is the most fun is testing AI's capabilities to see what more it could do that I never thought of. And so I think just for me, there's that aspect of having a buddy to do my work with. And then on the more kind of tactical side of things, having somebody that I can delegate some of the more boring aspects of my job so that I do get to just have more fun and do more of the creative elements that I love.
It's funny because I'm a words guy. I've been a writer for over a
Mhm.
decade. Words and communication are really important to me. It's how we formulate thoughts. It's how we frame everything that
Mhm.
we see. And pretty much everything around AI is a struggle for a lot of those reasons. From the very first, we call it artificial intelligence. And so that already has these connotations of it's fake, it's not real,
Mhm.
it's artificial. And then there's this whole idea that you touched on where is it a tool? Is it technology? Is it an assistant? Is it an app? Is it a chatbot? And obviously it's all and yet none of those things at the same time. And
Mhm.
so the words are lacking, which I think is one of the mental barriers that we see in people just being able to adopt it. They're not able to wrap their mind around it because we're not able to adequately communicate what AI is. What are some other mental barriers that you've seen, particularly in marketing teams, when it comes to embracing AI, and how do you overcome those?
So the first one that comes up the most with marketers is that they feel AI and using AI is cheating in some way. They see that they can get things done faster and that AI is taking the pen in a lot of different aspects. And they believe in some way that they're being held accountable to the amount of work they put in, not necessarily the outcomes. And I see people who hesitate to play with these technologies because they just feel it's cheating and that they're somehow going to be punished in some way for using these technologies, and they just look at it as a shortcut they shouldn't be doing. So I would say that cheating aspect is number one. And the second one that I hear a lot about is that marketers are afraid that AI might take over that creative process from them. And
Yeah.
they went into marketing to to bring out those creative elements of themselves. And so if AI can do some of these creative elements, there's this thought that maybe it makes them less creative. But the way I look at it is that AI is just a creative partner that's yours and that you've trained to help you in certain ways. And it can truly help you, generate new perspectives. It can help you expand your creative processes. And you as a marketer then can look at all of those ideas that it's given you and the guide and refine the process. So you're still ultimately responsible for the output, and you absolutely should. That is what you as a marketer, your human touch can do. Stop thinking about AI as taking away that creative element from your work because it's really there to support you.
Those are two very valid points. I see that a lot. How do you get around this idea that AI is fake or cheating? To your point,
I look at it as how much more can you do, but more than just the quantity of work. I look at it as what additional capabilities can you add to your arsenal that you didn't have without AI. And so one of the best ways that I like to think about this and try to get into marketers' heads is instead of asking yourself, what can I do? How can I accomplish this task? Instead, start to ask yourself, what could AI do if I guided it? And recognizing now that you have a whole bunch of little AI employees available to you that can be guided by you. Some of the things that it can now do is help you with some of the stuff that you were doing today. So maybe that might be blogging or social posts or data analysis or something like that. But then you can start to think about what additional capabilities can you do or can you guide it to do with your expertise? So, a great example that I know a lot of marketers have struggled with in the past is creating things like an ROI calculator.
Mm,
And those are things that in all of my product marketing jobs, we've wanted to build. And we've typically had to go to an agency and kind of build out these models and have them build these things for us. Well, with AI and tools like Claude and specifically the artifacts feature, they can now build a lot of these apps
mm.
and functionality with your guidance. So you don't have to know how to be the person actually coding these tools, but it's your knowledge of your products and what your customer challenges are and the ROI and things like that, that if you can guide a employee, an AI employee, you can do more. So that's just how I try to explain it, which is stop thinking about it. I'm taking all of these different roles, but
Mm.
more expanding all of the different things that you can do across kind of what you were doing and more.
It's similar in my mind to how there was so much pushback a couple decades ago towards students bringing scientific calculators to work. Or not to work, to school rather,
Yeah.
because, yeah, it was gonna do all the work for them, they were gonna lose their education, whatever. Okay, that clearly has not hampered our ability as a society to continue to move forward with technology and that sort of thing. And I was reminded while you were talking of just our previous episode, we talked
Mhm.
with Tamara Moravsky from the Marketing AI Institute, and that was a very similar conversation, but we packed this truth that if we're using AI effectively, it makes us more productive and
Mhm.
efficient, which saves us time.
Yes.
And part of that time could be spent thinking about what else we could be doing. And if you really let that thought sit, those of you listening, really think about the fact that most of us are in what we would probably describe as a rat race, where we are just running and running and running all day long, trying to keep up with everything we're supposed to do. By the end of the day, we flop in bed, we fall asleep, and we get up the next day, and we do the same thing over and over and over again. We're not giving ourselves the freedom of a significant amount of time to
Yeah.
really just sit and think and plan and be creative to your point and be expressive. What else could we possibly do? A lot of us just couldn't
Mhm.
imagine what we could do with 10 or 15 extra hours a week. And that's okay. You should take the time to imagine what you might do with some of that. And that would take some time, but that is one of the things that I think AI is going to bring to the table for us as we move forward.
Yeah, and one thing I'd add to that is especially if you are a specialist who truly understands a function or a process, like you are a specialist in that. It's about thinking about all the tertiary things that might have gone to other people in the past that
Mm,
you can now do. And so, like, as an example, and I recognize this is certainly a big company example, I've got small company examples as well. But, like, for example, product marketer in a big company might write a white paper or write a kind of initial copy for a product page and then they pass that off to a campaign team or another group of folks who will build some of those kind of I say secondary not in that it's less than but built on so derivatives of that hero asset. And now people who might not have been experts in some of these other processes but were a specialist in, for example, since we're talking about product marketing, they can now own the entire life cycle of their content or their product or whatever the case may be in ways that they couldn't in the past. And I think it's that mindset that's also changing how startups are hiring because you don't necessarily need A, as many people, but B, it's a different skill set where you might have initially hired generalists. Now you can bring in specialists who, with these tools, can just have so much more impact on an organization.
and I love that. Could you share some other examples of how shifting to this AI mindset has maybe transformed marketing strategy or a particular campaign that you've worked on?
I think one of the ways that it has enhanced or changed things like campaigns is having a partner to do a level of brainstorming that might not have been possible before. You can have all the wild and crazy ideas and throw them up and see what sticks, try new things. There are AI tools today that can create songs. So creating a promotional song for your
Yeah.
launch there, and that's with the tools, Suno, Suno. And then there are tools like Notebook LM from Google, which
Yeah.
can create a podcast. And we talked about how Claude with artifacts can create an ROI calculator or some type of application. And so it's using these tools. They become this like limitless partner to enable you to try all of these different things. That my cat has decided to join.
Yep.
Hello, everyone. But it's that idea of AI just bringing so many more capabilities and tools to your arsenal that campaigns can be expanded more than they have in the past.
Well, first of all, the cat's awesome. Cat
I'm
obviously
gonna look at
loves your
it.
new camera view. Here she approves. That's terrific. Now, we've talked a little bit about how AI is impacting creativity, and we've talked a little bit about how it's impacting humanity, but I'm wondering if you could share what else you think about how this AI mindset that we want to adopt is gonna impact creativity, how it's going to impact or potentially stifle, because you mentioned that's one of the concerns, right? Is it gonna stifle human creativity? How do you address those kinds of concerns?
I look at AI as a creative catalyst. So it's elevating just the types of work you do, the types of ideas that you have. So getting it out of your mindset that it is this replacement. And so I think if you can look at AI as this thing that expands how you think, what you can do, ideas, things that break from more traditional types of marketing, you'll start to see that when you can combine those AI brainstorming sessions combined with your human expertise, you're able to truly refine and elevate storytelling. I really look at AI as this partner that can, whether it's looking at data to figure out what's worked in the past and what is not, finding hidden patterns, suggesting novel ideas, being able to help you rapidly iterate on concepts or test unconventional ideas. It really just lets you at a scale that you couldn't have done before explore those various what if scenarios that I think can expand overall creative possibilities. In addition, it's just bringing all of that together when you as a human can look at all of these outputs and decide which ones are practical, which ones might be worth a shot, and which ones just aren't going to happen. They're just simply not going to be there. But using these ideas to truly get you started from a higher place, and by higher place, I really mean from a further point. You're starting not from a blank slate, but from a set of ideas, and then bringing that all together to be that final curator and deciding what is the best for this campaign, and only you as the human with this expertise can make those decisions.
I love that you mentioned storytelling. I'm a storyteller, content creator, both here and in my job at Agorapulse. And so I follow a lot of people who
Mhm.
talk about storytelling, and I'm not going to call them out, but a lot of them are very obviously anti-AI in their social posts. And I understand where they're coming from, but I disagree. I'm using AI extensively now through my storytelling because I'm using it to help me develop outreach campaigns to customers and prospects, to bring them on shows, to bring them into interviews. I'm using AI to help me craft interview questions, like asking questions to the AI, like, here are the 8 or 10 questions that I plan to ask this customer. What am I missing? What else should I ask? Right. And it gives me great suggestions every time. But then here's the really fun part. I'll do the interview. there's no AI in the actual box like this, right? I'm talking to the customer. It's up to me what follow-up questions I ask and that sort of thing. But then I can take the entire transcript and drop it into a custom GPT that I've built that has our brand voice, our brand storytelling guidelines, the structure we like for our success stories. And the AI instantly understands the entire interview, which is like a 45-minute
Yep.
interview, right? And crafts a flawless success story. It has their challenges, their journey, their transformation, the results, everything that they shared in the interview, quotes, everything that I said I wanted, right? It's
Mhm.
all there in a nice document that I can just hand to my content team and say, here's a draft for our
Right.
next success story. You can polish, you can edit it, you can change anything you want. But here's to your point, that place to start. It's not a
Yeah.
blank page. They don't have to go listen to a 45-minute transcript unless they want to, but it just saves so much time and it allows us to scale our storytelling efforts, which could then be applied to any other area of marketing that you might want to work.
I want to ask one question about that because, and I have
Yeah.
my answer, but I'll ask you first since you started it. You talked about putting all of this content into a GPT and it's all built for you. I I live and die by my GPTs right now. I, as a solopreneur, have created many to help me with so many various aspects of my job because it's I am able to do more than I think I ever could have in the past, being able to do this all myself. So my question to you is, how many GPTs do you have you created and do you use on a daily basis? And I'd like to know if I'm crazy or not.
Probably not as many as you. Let me do some quick calculations. I've got some custom GPTs, and then I also use a tool called Magi, which I'll share in just a
Okay.
moment, that has personas, and I
Okay.
love that because the personas in Magi's a wrapper for ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, this Meta, Grok. You can use any large language model you want. They're paid premium versions, and then you can apply the persona just like a custom GPT to whichever model. So I don't have to have a Claude project and then duplicate that into a custom GPT if I want to use the same thing, but maybe change the model. So, anyways, I probably have 12 that I've created, and several of them I use every single day. I have this podcast personally. I've got 4 podcasts very similar to this at Agorapulse. So that's 5 active podcasts, and I've got a showrunner GPT every single one of those shows. So as soon as I have an interview coming up, the AI is my assistant, helps me prepare. I've
Yeah.
got a brand voice. This is for me personally. I've got a brand voice GPT, a brand audience GPT. I've got some newsletter and promotional GPTs. I love them.
I love what you've said because what you've done is absolutely how I recommend using them. And I don't always think it's done this way, but it's like the single purpose GPTs. They do one thing and one thing awesome. You're not doing a bunch of different things. So I personally have probably between 50 and 70.
Yes.
But, it's like but it's like for every minute thing. It's like I have one that cleans up my email so that they sometimes I'm sure everybody here has had those moments where when you reply, you just laugh. You put it on the page and then I have something that makes it sound super professional, which is always important and doing it in my voice. And then one's for very specifically LinkedIn or very specific and
Mm,
LinkedIn for Natalie versus LinkedIn for Gen Edge, 2 completely different
yeah,
teams,
right.
GPTs, and I have them to help with proposals and all of these different things. But I have certainly gotten down to the micro task with these things to be able to call them. And it goes back to fun. It's so much fun to do work when you can bring in all of your assistants at any given time.
Right, and then you can apply them, right? Using one GPT and then shift gears, like, I'll use my audience GPT to help me with strategic questions,
Mhm.
but if in the process of that conversation we decide, "Oh, I should send an email about this to this audience," cool, let me shift to the voice GPT.
Yep.
Okay, we already decided, here's the outline, here's what we wanna talk about. Okay, voice GPT, help me craft this in my style. Which I think is hilarious. I went through this whole exercise. I did a whole episode about it, if folks wanna listen, that I fed it blog posts and we had this whole conversation to develop what my voice is
Yeah.
and then turn that into, some custom instructions, and I was amazed at how well it nailed its description of my voice, better than I could have ever possibly described my own style
Yep.
and voice, to the point where, it identified, it picked up on how I like to use historical references and science fiction references, And I actually have to tell it to dial it back sometimes. Like if we're doing a professional email, I'm like, don't slip a Star Wars reference into this email. Make it my voice, but let's not go that far.
That's awesome. No, that's great. And I've noticed that too. One of my fun ones, and this is for any if you have kind of small business owners who listen to this podcast, one of the ones that just really blew my mind is I created one based on I was probably 6, 7 months into my business. And so I created one that I uploaded all of the proposals that I had sent over that amount of time and told it like this, these are my capabilities, understand that this is what I do. And the goal was I could go into it and write a customer challenge or a customer problem. And then its job was to apply what it knew I could do to that particular customer problem. And I've actually won a bunch of business on GPT
Hmm.
created proposals and ideas that I don't, and who knows if I would have come up with it, but it's certainly elevated my proposals and more catering it to each individual customer. So it's just fun, the different things that you can start applying when you play with them.
Yeah, for sure. And, speaking of small business owners and marketers, what do you think are some practical steps for them who maybe even if they're not tech savvy, but they want to start developing an AI mindset and be able to start doing some of the things that you and I are already talking about doing?
So the first thing I tell people all the time is just start with a daily routine. Change a single daily routine that is something that you do every day. So for example, if you always go to search something in Google, try using Perplexity. Try using the new ChatGPT's search GPT. Just try using AI to do something that you do every day. Get used to it, see its capabilities. One of the things that you'll find when just changing something like search is that it it is a different way to search now. It becomes a conversation within these tools where you can ask follow-up questions when you get a list of results and you can just keep going down the rabbit hole. And you'll start to just become more comfortable with how the technologies work. So if you choose to go back to Google, great, but it at least is just something very tangible that you can start with. Next, I'd say automate one repetitive task this week. So if you're sitting at your desk and you're finding you're doing something for the third or fourth time this week,
Hmm.
find a way to use AI to help change up and support you with that task. It can be something as crazy as or as simple as copywriting. So maybe it's an email. Maybe you always take the time to go back and reread your emails and fix them. See if that task could be automated with AI and in that copywriting. One of the ones that I started playing with a couple weeks ago is I was sent a email with with a copy and paste of a bunch of the things in a spreadsheet. And unfortunately, when it's copy and pasted into an email, it doesn't perform like a spreadsheet anymore. So you can't copy the columns or the rows or things like that. And so I just tried giving ChatGPT a screenshot of the grid that was sent to me in email. And it was able to completely put all of that content into a table for me that I could then copy and paste into the spreadsheet I needed it in. So that's just one of those repetitive tasks that many people on a regular basis get because you're constantly moving data from one thing to another. So finding a way to automate a random task. And then finally, there's so much great content out there, whether it be Mike, you in this podcast, there's a lot of newsletters, podcasts, YouTube channels, so many people who are living and breathing this technology. And while most marketers don't have the time to stay up to speed by themselves and play with everything, leverage the insights of a lot of these professionals out there so that you can get up to speed faster.
Love that advice. And you're right. This is how it begins to become an actual mindset shift. The whole point of our conversation today is that we stop thinking about AI as the third or fourth step in a potential solution. It's the third or fourth option that we try, and we bump it up to maybe it's the second option, or maybe it's the soon to be the first option. I was just
Mhm.
reminded of this yesterday. I wanted to see how this podcast had grown month over month since I launched it in May. And I host with Megaphone, which is Spotify owned. So I've got statistics there. I've got analytics at Spotify. I've got analytics at Apple, but none of them showed me monthly totals. But I could download a CSV of every single day's downloads. Okay, cool. Well, I know how to import that into a sheet, but then I've got to summarize each month and then have some sums and then total that and then turn that into a graph. And I started doing that. I'm like, gosh, this is already taking longer than I wanted. Just I've only been doing this for 5 months. It shouldn't be a complicated question. And then it dawned on me, not as soon as I would have liked, but it dawned on me, well, ChatGPT could do this. So I just opened a new chat. I gave it the CSV file. I asked it, I said, look, I want this summary. And it created a chart in seconds that
I
showed
cannot
me
tell
how
you
I
the amount of
progressed.
times that I have been just like you, which is I'm like 75%, 80% through a task of truly mind numbingness, awfulness. And I'm like, you know what? I'm down to do this. But that's where I go back to that point one, which is change a habit because
Yeah.
it'll get you in the habit of looking there first. And I think that's the overall point of we can always ask ourselves, could AI take this? It will help avoid some of those moments that I've had more times than I can count, and I live and breathe this stuff every day.
Right. So hopefully those of you listening are relating a little bit to what Natalie and I are talking about, because we're talking with Natalie Lambert about the importance of and the steps toward developing an AI mindset. In a moment, we're going to explore some that might evolve in the coming years and how this will evolve. But first, a quick word from our sponsor. This episode of AI for Business Leaders, the AI Hat podcast, is brought to you by Magi. Tired of juggling multiple AI subscriptions and trying to figure out which tool to use and when? Magi simplifies AI for businesses by offering access to all the leading language models and image and video generators for one low price. With Magi, you can create custom instructions to personalize AI for every business need and use them across all LLMs, including ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, and even DeepSeek. No more building custom GPTs or gems that are limited to just one platform. Magi also lets you create customized workspaces for your entire team, giving everyone in your organization access to the same AI assistants and tools and prompts. Ready to streamline your AI workflow and empower your team? Tap the link in the show notes to visit Magi today to learn more. And now, back to the rest of today's episode. So we've talked about creating emails and copy and content and that sort of thing. How do you think this change, this AI mindset, maybe it changes the way marketers approach data or decision making?
One of the great things that AI can do, and we've talked about it, being able to throw a lot of data and you got those pictures and you're able to digest the information better and faster. AI truly enables us to learn from past performance and bring that data back in so that we have this continuous learning loop around what we should be doing in our jobs. Like, how do we refine a strategy? How do we improve performance? Kind of being able to evaluate and analyze data as it's happening and as it's going through, we're able to make better decisions about the future. So, I'll give a great example. There's a really interesting tool called AnyWord. And I want to talk about AnyWord specifically as it pertains to social media because I've seen a lot of success there. So this is a tool that helps you create social media copy. And it's in many cases not unlike just using ChatGPT or any of the other many marketing specific tools out there. But what makes it relatively unique is it can connect to your social data to learn in real time what's working and help predict the performance of future social content based on how your posts have performed in the past. And so one of the really interesting things about this tool is you can either put in your own social copy or have it create social copy, and it will score it based on your past performance. And you can choose to have it improve the performance of the post by aligning it with some of the most highest performing content that you've done in the past. So if you think about I say today's world, but let's call it the past world
Right.
without AI, where you're creating these posts. Yes, you can gut check how much a post is like a previous post that is done well. But when you have AI sifting through hundreds or thousands or tens of thousands of data points, having it be able to find whatever that small nuance might be that is generating a great performing post and have it be able to mirror that, you're able to just shift from reactive A/B testing and determining what's best to truly predictive content that should perform better with your audience. And so I love this idea of AI truly being able to leverage the past and the current to help you make smarter decisions over time.
I love that approach. We've talked often on this show about like things like content gap
Mhm.
analysis, using AI to analyze the hundreds, perhaps thousands of blog articles that we've written and help us understand, well, what else should we write about? What haven't we written about yet? And that's a very similar take, looking at all the past social posts and helping us identify what did really, really well. And sometimes, to your point, you can see that. We often don't know why as marketers. Why did this LinkedIn post do well and this one didn't? When as a human, they look the same.
What's interesting about this any word tool, because I've seen it like a post get a very low score and then have it fix it and it gets a really high score in its predictive capabilities. And you look at it, and as somebody who's been in marketing for 25 years, you look at it and you're like, kind of same, same. Like, I really don't
Right?
see much of a difference. And then we get a 71% increase in click-through rate. It's like, where did this come from? And I can truly tell you, as somebody who ran the social team at Google, you look at these two posts, it's what is it? 6 dozen of one, half dozen, whatever. 6
Yeah.
of one, half
Yeah.
dozen of the other, whatever that expression is. It's not obvious, but AI
No.
has this ability to find whether it be patterns or something that we don't see.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense to me because I'm certified in NLP. So I've studied how humans think about how they filter the information they receive, how they distort it, and so on. And I understand that there's subtle changes that we can make in language
Mhm.
that are imperceptible unless you know what you're looking for. Like
Yeah.
I tell you, imagine if you were sitting at your desk back at Google and you were talking to your team and already you're doing that.
Yeah.
I use the word imagine. And that's an inherent command, even though I obviously didn't say it. Imagine. There's words, there's
Yeah.
patterns that we can use. There's a whole Harvard study about people getting in line for a copier, and you could just walk to the front of the line and get your copies done simply by turning to the person who was in the front of the line and saying, "I need to do some copies because."
Yeah.
And it didn't matter what you said after that. They simply accepted the fact, "Oh, well, if you've got a good reason, even if it's not a good reason, you can do it." So there's these funny things about human psychology that, well, we know artificial intelligence has ingested this information and is aware of that. So I love that we're using it for these kinds of things.
Yeah.
Now, we've talked a little bit about the struggle that marketers have in keeping up
Mhm.
with all these things that are happening. It's something I've talked about on the show a number of times. First of all, I don't really talk about like the latest changes in developments. I'm not going to talk about tools that are new on this show because it changes so rapidly. I leave most of that to Paul Raitzer and Mike Caputa at the
Yeah.
Marketing Institute, right? The artificial intelligence show is great for what's happened in the past week
Yeah.
for AI. But how else do you recommend that marketers who want to keep up, phrase it another way, how important do you think continuous learning is in this technology, in this area?
It's super important, but for not just for the reasons of staying up to date with the tools, because I fundamentally believe like AI it's not a technology gap. These tools are easy to use. It's what we talked about earlier, which is thinking about all the ways to apply them. And so I think that kind of constantly going into them and seeing what's possible, seeing if it brings new ideas or sparks new ideas is just a great way of continually learning how to use them more. So I really think about this because it's how I live my life with these tools. is truly adopting that mindset of curiosity and play. If you're always going into these tools to accomplish one specific task, then that's what you're going to know. And maybe you'll become an expert at using these tools for that, but you won't get a sense for what they can do. And so one of the things that I truly try to do is go into these tools. Well, I live in them daily, but just try a different use case. Try ask something that I wouldn't have thought to ask in the past, whether it be kind of career advice or what I should make for dinner. Whatever the case is, really starting to just think about using them differently. Because I think one, it for me, it helps me explore the creative side of myself in figuring how to do this. So I don't always feel that AI is taking that. But it's just one of those ways to continually see what's possible, elevate your skills, improve your impact, and have fun using these tools.
I love that advice. In fact, I shared the threads just last week. I have a truly random assortment of liquors and alcohols in a cabinet downstairs. And so I told ChatGPT, here's all the liquors I had. There was like 13 random bottles of weird things. And it's like, what can I make with this? Teach me a cocktail or two to make it. And it gave me five really, really interesting, incredible cocktails, like a Cuban sunrise and some kind of a citrus lemon martini or an orange citrus martini. It was really interesting and quite good, actually. Quite a
And one of the
these
things that you could
recipes.
probably take that kind of prompts to the next level, and it won't always work. I'll be the first to say, if you don't succeed, do try again. And just try again
Yeah,
many
right?
times. But like you said, you wrote in all of the different liquors you have. Try just taking a picture of your liquor cabinet and
Yeah,
uploading it because I think you'd be surprised. Like to me, that's the things that I sometimes miss. I feel I have to give more information than I
yeah,
probably likely need to. And I get in that all the time. And this is again someone who lives and breathes this. So I just that's what I mean by taking that step. It's like came up with a great use case. What if you just did a picture next time and didn't even take the time to write it?
right?
I'm sure you've seen people who take a picture of their refrigerator. They're like, what
Yep.
did I make tonight?
That's exactly what prompted me to do that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, Natalie, my last question for you. I'm just wondering how you see this AI mindset evolving. I hesitate to almost say the next few years because these things are changing so rapidly as we talked about, but just in the very near future, how do you think marketers should be preparing?
So I feel we've had such a fun conversation. And I'm so afraid this is gonna come off awful at the end. But AI is no longer optional. It is
Yeah,
fundamentally a job requirement. So once you get playing and start seeing how it can help with more basic tasks, go from using it to help with tasks to using it to help build out plans, be that strategic partner that can help you improve your impact and do more within your role to align with what the business is trying to do. And so I really I fundamentally believe that AI is something you need to be using every day. You need to find places that it can help you. I don't think there's a single person, a marketer, who won't be able to find a use case for it to help in some way. And I say get started, start playing, even if you're playing in a way that it doesn't even apply to your role, just start playing. And then as it becomes part of kind of more of what you're doing, start using it in ways that enable you to think bigger. So this goes back to that strategic partnership. Really using it to ask bigger questions, think outside the box, think about new ideas that might not have been possible. And instead of if it gives you some of these ideas and you think, oh, I can't do that, or we don't have the budget to do X, start to think, are there AI tools that can help us do this that we might not have had before. So some of these things would have been off the table. So it's like for me, it is just get into the tools, play with them every day. This is we are not going to have a choice but to use these. And there's been recent studies. I believe LinkedIn did a study. I forget the numbers off the top of my head, but it basically said that managers are now both are willing to hire somebody with less experience if they know AI, which I think is important, and other managers who are simply unwilling to hire people without AI experience. So it's just not optional. But if you come to the party thinking about it as a partner, as someone to help you get your work done, make it more fun, I think you will truly enjoy the capabilities it brings.
And that's the good news. This isn't an edict to use trigonometry every hour of your day. I'm going to echo what you said at the very beginning of the episode, which is that this is fun. This brings joy to your day. I can honestly say how much fun and joy I feel when I use AI and it gives me some incredible idea or a really terrific output. How happy it makes me that, oh, wow, okay, that's awesome. That was so easy. That saved me so much time. I can go on to doing the next thing and the next thing in my day. So, I completely agree, and I appreciate you making that point. Natalie, you've been fantastic. I know folks have gotten so much out of this episode. For folks who want to know more about you or they want to reach out and connect, where can they go?
Yeah, so genedge.co is my website. But please follow me on LinkedIn. I post a lot of videos on interesting use cases and how to use the different technologies. Same with YouTube. I have a great YouTube channel where I'm really starting to increase the number of videos I post there, but showing how a small use case can turn into something super impactful with AI. So I think those are the main places.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Natalie. Thank you all of you for listening. That's all we've got for today, friends. But remember, if this is your first foray into AI and you're maybe feeling a bit overwhelmed by jargon and all the different tools, download the free AI marketing primer linked in the show notes below. It'll set your mind at ease and it'll free you to focus on the kinds of topics we've been talking about today. Meanwhile, welcome to the grid. That's a wrap on another episode of the AI Hat Podcast. I hope you gained some valuable insights and actionable strategies to boost your business with AI. If you enjoyed the show, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your network. And don't forget to visit theaihat.com for more resources and to connect with me. Until next time, keep innovating and remember, the future of business is human and it's powered by AI.